Where's it at? Oh! That was so fun. You need to give me the details, okay? Is Adam gonna compete too? We went and watched her.
Yeah, if I pay her to coach me, then yeah, but if I don't, then.
Whenever you start recording on Teams, it starts transcribing what it thinks you're saying, and it's just listening to you. Says, where's that? Ooh, I like to watch. You need to give me the details, okay? Is Adam government complete too? We went and watched her. Then yeah.
You can actually turn off the transcript.
That's fine. I kind of like it.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
I just signed up for my Google account and then forward it to my.
Whatever
school
works
account
for
and
you,
then
just get
do
to
my
Google. Yeah, whatever works.
Just, I don't care what you use really. Just get on Google Docs. All right, who's on Google Docs? Raise your hand if you're not on Google Docs. If you're not yet to Google Docs. All right, shame on you. Everybody look at them and make them embarrassed.
Wow, okay. I'm over here trying, okay?
Everybody go on Google Docs. Okay, great. If you having trouble getting on, or is it?
Figured the man. Why do you have to tell me? Because I have it on my iPhone. So I tried connecting it to another Gmail account. But then I had it with my old Gmail account. And now I'm my school.
All right, who's not on Google Docs? Raise your hand if you're not there yet. If you're not there. James, are you there?
We're entering in that password. How do you change your password? Keep your school account. Go find the device.
It's very simple. Docs.google.com.
I'm trying to log into my school account and it didn't work because I don't know the password.
Yeah, you
Can I just use my phone? It's on. I got Google Docs on my phone.
No,
I can't.
no.
Let me see if I can log into.
Just use any Google. It doesn't have to be a school one. Doesn't
I'm
matter.
trying to do, but everything's already logged in. I don't know what passwords.
You don't know any Google passwords? You have like,
Never use two
okay, well, it's got to be one of those.
And that's what I'm saying, but there's so many varieties of those passwords. Ones with exclamation marks, with capitals.
Capital at first letter and exclamation point at the end with a 1 after it.
Yeah.
All right, are we all there? We all there? Hey, if you're there, raise your hand. If you're on Google Docs, raise your hand. All right, cool beans. You're not going to need that for a minute, but we'll get there. We're going to talk about essay writing. But lucky for you, one of the greatest essay writers of our generation is coming here. Paid for his entire college experience through essay writing and made money by winning essay contests. Let me go get him. What's up, guys?
Round of applause.
All right, so here's why you should listen to me about essay writing. I write a lot of essays. I write lots of things. And I literally paid for college by winning essay contests. So, listen, okay? How many of you guys like to talk about things that interest you?
Yeah.
All right, like
All
what?
y'all should be raising your hand.
Like what? What kind of things do you like? They like to talk about? Sleeping? And I'm not mean like public speaking. I just mean like talking in general. What do you like to talk about? All right, wait, back up, right there.
Memories of life.
Memories, what else? Give me a couple. Okay, what do those things, do they have anything in common? Can you find anything in common with those things?
They all involve somebody important.
Okay, somebody else give me some examples of things that you like to talk about. Okay, Penny, dreams, what else? Dreams, games, what else? Food. All right, dreams, games, and food. Can anybody find any connections between those three things? Is there any common ground between dreams, games, and food? When you say games, you mean like video games? What? Yeah, okay, so like dreams and video games is not quite reality. It's more of like a fiction type situation. All right, somebody else, tell me something that you like to talk about. Cam, what about you?
School, Chick-fil-A, NFL.
All right, you like to talk about those things, football, school, Chick-fil-A, NFL. What do those things have in common? Somebody help them out if you can find a connection between those things. Football, Chick-fil-A, NFL, school. All right, so it's activities that you participate in, right? Okay. So if anybody from this side, we're not got nobody from this side of the room yet. Somebody volunteer.
Come on, guys.
What do
are
what?
things that you like to talk
Yeah, what are
about?
some things you like to talk about? Yeah, I'm just asking. What do you like to talk about in everyday conversation? Okay, we've talked about math homework. All right. So think of some things that you actually like to talk about, and everybody try to think of some things, and write down just 2 or 3 things that you like to talk about on your paper there. Also, I'm going to teach you something on Google Docs real quick. Anybody know the shortcut for doing bullet points? All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give it a heading, things I like to talk about. Let me go down to the next line, hit Control, Shift, 8, and that'll bring up your bullet points. Hit Control and Shift and 8 at the same time, and that toggles on and off.
Oh my God.
All right, so you can raise your hand if you like that little shortcut, Control Shift 8, if you got it to work. Raise your hand if you got it to work. Control Shift 8 gives you a bullet point. Now hit Control Shift 7. Here's your some numbers. Apparently there's a shortcut for something on this. All right, so if you hit, I'm going to do Control Shift 8, and I'm going to say things I like to talk about: music, sports, things like that. You can make a sub list, go up to one of your topics, and go down, hit Enter to make another bullet point underneath it, and then hit Tab. And that gives you a sub-bullet point. So then I say, what kind of music do I like to talk about? Jeffrey Martin, pretty good music. Taylor Swift. CeeLo Green. I don't even listen to those. But you can make sub-lists by just going down and hitting that tab button, and just work out a few things that you like to talk about with some sub-points.
What would I say about dreams?
Like what kind of dreams? What could you say about dreams? So they would say dreams. Maybe like.
How many do we have? Main titles. 5. Make 5 main ones.
Just give me 3. 3 main bullet points, and then 3 sub-bullet points.
Hey, Devin, what was the shortcut you said for bullets?
For bullet points, somebody tell me.
Enter and you have over.
All right, but how do you get the bullet point shortcut? Somebody tell me. Yeah. Control Shift 8.
And then the sub-points?
You just make another bullet point and hit tab.
And you tab it over if you want a sub-point, okay?
Now, you can control, if you're really into this, you can control like how many sub-bullet points you have. You can skip them if you hit Control and then the little bracket things next to the letter P. If you hit Control, you can just like quickly make different levels of bullet points.
You gotta have 3 points and 3 sub-points. Oh, jokes, that's a good one.
Give me some more sub-points there. Unions, what else do I need? I need 3 main bullet points and 3 sub-points for each bullet point.
3 sub-points for each bullet point. Example is on the board, on the screen. Control shift, what is it, Control shift 8?
Control Shift 8 brings up your bullet points if you've not got them up yet. And then
You only do it once, it's a toggle fight thing. It's a
What?
toggle, you only do it once, and then every single time you hit enter, it's gonna change. It's a toggle.
Share that to the back row, and send it to them.
No, I don't yell, I want to talk manners.
hang on.
Devin, you don't like to talk about Taylor Swift?
No, I don't. I was giving you.
Oh, okay.
Hold
So what you do?
Breaking ankles?
Like,
Oh, yeah, like
you know, like
traffic
in
ankles,
practice,
like break my
in
ankles.
practice, you break your teammates' ankle, you gotta talk about it.
You gotta talk about it.
You can't let them
You can't let that
slide
go.
by,
No, that's
you know,
true. What about when Stephanie beats you in one-on-one? What about that?
what about how PC it was to South?
That's not a personal victory for me necessarily.
All right, so your doc should start to look something like this.
Okay, am I gonna be hurt?
Oh, diction.
Give some local ones.
You're the punter in the square the other time?
Yeah,
Was it good?
it was good.
I think that was, it was free, wasn't it? I thought it was free.
Yeah, that was good.
Are we doing another one?
Yeah, if you got time,
You got it?
just keep going.
Okay, good.
And look, you might find it easier, like I changed mine from the 3 artists that I have listed under music to artists, venues, and events, because I can think of more things that go underneath them. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
so like,
That I like to talk about.
music, yeah, like the things that you like the best, what is it that you like about this song in particular? Go in detail about what, okay, so about George, what do we like about George? What do you like to talk about George? Right, that's what you're supposed to do. Jaleel, keep moving, dude.
I'm thinking. Okay, Alice, I don't think his one.
Okay. So go ahead and drill on down into these. What?
Yeah, once you get through, like if yours starts looking like mine, that's where we wanna kind of stop, for now.
Okay,
So-
what about food? Well, back up to food.
3 main points, 3 sub points, and then for one of those sections, 3 sub points, like that.
Okay, so tell me, what about food? At least 3 things about food that you like to talk about. I love to talk about food. I like to talk about anything, really, pretty much. Do you dream about Chick-fil-A? Oh, my
Okay,
God.
so for your sub points here,
Roll level right there.
narrow this down Or you can
Those Mary
expand it.
Grace, I love those.
Narrow this down to 3, that's fine. Go ahead. What's your 3 favorite plays? 3 plays that you like, or 3 types of plays that you like.
Join class. Oh, that's the best kind of place.
I said, what kind of place you like to?
It's average.
The ones that count, right? The ones that score points? You're debating on this?
Okay, stop where you're at. It doesn't really matter how far you've gone. Stop where you're at. And somebody share with me some of the things that you wrote down that you like to talk about. Anybody, raise your hand. Penny, what did you come up with for dreams? Sleeping? Okay. So your main point was dream, and then your sub point was sleeping, wishing, and what else? Did you get a third one? Nightmares? Okay. Sounds good. Somebody else. Mason, what did you get? Give us your 3 main points. What's your 3 main points? All right, what did you write under the subpoints for work?
What do I do / don't like, and what am I doing at work?
All right, did you have any subpoints past that? Okay. All right, let's somebody from this side of the room. Malachi. Okay. All right, so what you guys just did was outline an essay. You might not know it, but the prompt was talk about something that you like, or talk about 3 things that you like. That's the prompt, and you just went ahead and wrote an entire essay outline for it. So the way that everybody see how that kind of works? How you find just something that interests you, and then you make a list of 3 things. And then for each of those lists, for each of those things, you make another list of 3 things. And then for each of those things, you make another list of 3 things. And before you know it, you've got a whole page full of notes that you can just start, well, I really enjoy music. I like talking about different artists, and I like visiting different venues and going to different events. And then you've got your intro, you've got, say this is like a section, you've got a whole paragraph, and you got content to go in those paragraphs. Does that make sense? Okay, so that was just a little intro thing. So don't worry about working on that. You can stop typing and clicking. Raise your hand if you don't like to write, if you've never really enjoyed the process of like writing in general. All right, what are some reasons that you don't like to write? Not entertaining? Oh yeah, it's a big one. If the subject's something you don't like, what else? Anybody find it hard to focus? Anybody find it difficult to put your thoughts on paper? Or even to organize your thoughts? Like, what do I even think about this thing? That's some of the main reasons that people don't like to write. Raise your hand if you actually enjoy writing. All right, what are some things that you like about writing? Yeah. It's fun. What about it is fun? Yeah. Somebody from this side that raised their hand. Did you raise your hand? About liking writing? Yeah? Yeah. What'd you like to write about? Yeah, easy to express your thoughts and feelings. I am the kind of person who, whenever I like get into a situation or come across a subject and I'm not sure what I think about, I like to write it out and to literally write essays about. I'll just show you what my Google Drive looks like. all this is like mostly things to think through. Like sometimes I just have things like all these untitled documents are probably just like, see how they're bullet points? They're probably just like me thinking through something. Don't even know what all of them are. But I like to write. So some of the things that were mentioned that people dislike writing is you have to, sometimes for school, you have to write about something that you find boring, right? Or sometimes people just, to be honest, don't like to sit alone with their thoughts. How many people in here are addicted to your phone? And how many people find themselves every day doom scrolling through their timeline on TikTok or on Reels or something like that? Like you just sit there and you're just scrolling endlessly. Well, that kind of trains your brain to like be lazy, because you're not having to think about anything. You're not having to really maintain your attention for that long. You're just sitting there for a minute or 30 seconds or 10 seconds on TikTok, just like next thing for hours on end. And so a lot of people don't like writing because they find it hard to just think, to just gather your thoughts and think. And that's because you're training yourself to just be a vegetable that just consumes and consumes and consumes. And writing is not consumption, it's output, right? It's the opposite of consuming. So when you train yourself to be a consumer of media and a consumer of all these inputs, and you never exercise your brain or yourself to be an output of something creative, then it can be hard. So part of it is just you might be weak in that area, and that's just, there's nothing anybody can do for you to fix that. It's just something you've got to do on yourself to exercise that part of your brain, because we get plenty of exercise consuming, which requires almost no effort, but we got to exercise our brains to output, which you can do puzzles, you can do writing, you can do whatever. Yeah.
What if you love quiet and writing, but people are telling you should not be alone because of writing?
Okay, well, that's another thing. Everybody, some people can be different. Like when I'm the most productive is when hey guys, you don't need to be talking. We're not doing anything on the computer right now. Brendan, Jalil, we're not doing anything on the computer right now. Look this way. So the most, like some people have a hard time focusing when there is stuff going on around them. Like that's me. I'm most productive when it's silent and I'm just sitting there just grinding away. I'm super focused on whatever I'm doing. One time when I was in college, I had to write a 2,000-word essay on loitering. Who knows what loitering is? Yeah, what is loitering? Now, does that sound like something you could easily write a 2,000-word essay on? So I was studying criminal justice, and I literally, the prompt was write 2,000 words about loitering. And I procrastinated, and the night that it was due, I watched the Kentucky game until about 10 p.m. The game got over, and I wrote an essay about loitering in 2 hours, and I got an A on it because I had an idea of where I wanted to go with it. I'd already kind of outlined it, and I just had to throw it together. So like what you have, what we wrote about, what you like to do or what you like to talk about, you could probably pretty quickly throw together an essay on that just based off what you just did. Because all you have to do is say, all right, I'm going to talk about music first. I'm going to talk about, what am I going to talk about when I say music? I'm going to talk about the artists that I like. Here's the ones I like. You could just literally go bullet point by bullet point and turn them into sentences. And that will give you paragraphs, right? So some reasons that people enjoy writing, I said you enjoy like expressing your thoughts and getting stuff out there. I'm the same way. I need a sounding board when I have ideas. Like if I have a business idea or if I have an idea for a video or anything, I'll start writing it just because I got to put it somewhere so I can see it and then edit it. Like it's got to get out of my brain before I can start to play with it, right? So I enjoy that part of just thinking. And most of the time I'm writing about something that I find interesting, right? Like that's what, if I wasn't interested in it, I probably wouldn't be writing about it. And another reason I like it is because I know what I'm going to do every time I sit down to write. I have a process that I go through that helps me get from abstract thought or a question or a prompt to pages and pages and pages of writing. Like I wrote a 30-something page paper for my last semester at college this spring, and it took a lot less time than you would think, just because I've got the process. All right, so the secret to being good at writing and enjoying it is to try to find something about the prompt that interests you, or try to find a way to answer the prompt that interests you. And sometimes that requires you to be creative, right? So I'll just pull up on my phone here some examples. We were talking about the Common App essays, right? That's what we've been reading. So like when you go to apply for a college, you'll probably have to write an essay. And if you go like to get some scholarships, you probably have to write an essay for a lot of them. So here's some prompts for college apps. It says some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So some people that might really stand out, and most of these you have a choice of which prompt to answer. So some people that prompt might stand out and you think, oh man, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. Like for me, my time living in the Caribbean just immediately pops out. Like I could talk about that forever. It really shaped me as a person. Like it just jumps out at me, right? So I find something about that prompt that I like talking about and that I find interesting. And that makes me writing the thing way easier than if I had to write it about like my childhood or something. You know what I mean? Because sometimes your mind, the first place my mind went was to my childhood, because like that's your background. That's the first thing that it asked for. But if you just take a second to think through the prompt and think, okay, how can I answer this in a way that's interesting to me, then it makes the whole thing easier. So listen to the prompt again, and somebody raise your hand and tell me maybe what direction you might try to take it. It says some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Just think, what do you like to talk about? Something that has shaped you as a person. Somebody want to give an example? Doesn't have to be a thing that you did. Like I lived in Haiti. I could also write about music, right? Like I play music all the time. It's a big part of my life. I could write about that. Think about your talents. Think about things that you've experienced. Anybody have any ideas? All right, what's your idea? Yeah. How curious, and what is it? All right, so how much of a curious person you are. All right, so listen to this one and see if you can find something this. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure, and how did it affect you and what did you learn? So does anybody in here have a story or something that happened to them in their life that they've learned from? Raise your hand if you've ever learned anything in life.
It should be everyone right
Okay. I mean, that's kind of how it works. We all learn stuff from life. So just think about something that's happened to you, or something that you did, or a situation that you were in that you learned from, or you had an obstacle to overcome. Like for example, and this might go back to the first question too. When I was living in Haiti, there was a big meeting that I had to go to because I thought that we should not be doing something in particular. There's a big obstacle to overcome. And I went into the meeting thinking this might end my time in the Caribbean. I might go home after this if this meeting doesn't go the direction that I think it should. And that's what ended up happening. There was a big obstacle that we couldn't overcome. And I was like, I'm dipping out. And so that's how I ended up back in Kentucky, right? So I could write about that and go in all kinds of detail and lay it all out. And that would be something that would answer that essay prompt. Let's get down to the last one here. And this is why we're doing what we're doing today. This was the question for the Common App. This was prompt number 7. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one that you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So sometimes when you write an essay, it might help just to have one sitting on the back burner that is something you really like, that you spend a lot of time on, that you've thought about, and have that ready to go. So whenever you have an essay application like that, where it's like, write about anything, you don't even have to do anything. You just upload it, and there you go. So what you've got is a start to that, right? About what do you like to talk about? Or it might just be what you have might be a reference for something that another prompt might bring up, right? Okay, so now that we've got some of the kind of philosophy of writing out of the way, I'll get into different types of writing. This is more like academic theory, I guess you could say. So start a new page on your document. You can do that by hitting Control-Enter, and that will insert a page break. And like how you hit enter and it goes to the next paragraph, if you hit Control-Enter, it'll go all the way to the next page.
Hey, Devin, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Before he gets into this point, I do just want to say as well, all of these prompts that he's giving you, and this is really good information for you guys to be on, okay, and to really think about. But consider also how you can stand out. So the chances are everybody that's writing an essay has been through a hard time, right? They've had everybody raise their hand if you've ever gone through a challenge in your life. We've all gone through challenges. So what is going to make your particular essay stand out against somebody else? Okay. I once had a student who wrote a day in the life essay from the vantage point of her shoes. Okay, so her shoes told the story. The whole essay was written from her shoes perspective of the day in the life. So maybe think about too how you can take the things that you're brainstorming and respond to those prompts in creative, like put a creative spin on it. And you don't have to just say, okay, this is something that I like, and this is what this is what I'm going to tell you about it. You could maybe, I had a student this year, she compared herself to a spork. Okay, like who really does that? Probably the people who read the essay, it was a really good essay. The people who read the essay are gonna be like, well, I've never really had somebody compare themselves to a sport before, but it worked, okay, because it was a good creative spin on the prompt. So they might remember that. They might remember that versus somebody else who just said, this is bad. Anyway, so that's.
All right, I'll give you another example of that. So when I was in college here, one of my first writing prompts in English 101 or Writing 101, whatever class it was to write, I forget how many words, I think it was 500 or 1,000 words about a color. Pick a color and write 1,000 words about it. That was it. And the professor kind of pulled me aside after everybody turned it in and said, hey, this was a really interesting take on this, and I would like to publish it in the paper and use yours as an example for when we do this class later. I was like, sweet, go ahead. Guess what color I wrote about? White. I just wrote about the color white. And it was a super simple thing that got me thinking, right? We were in class, I was looking at the projector screen, and the color was a little off. And I was like, if that projector screen wasn't white, then every other color that's projected onto it looks a little bit off. So I kind of took that thing and made kind of a metaphor between life and like seeing things with a good perspective and watching a movie on a screen that was a little bit off-white. And so wrote however many words or pages she asked us to write about that, and just took it that direction where most people were like, oh, blue is sad, so I'm going to make something blue sad. Like, try to think outside the box and kind of put your own spin on something. All right, so the 4 main types of writing, and you can take notes on your bullet points and make your subpoints, whatever. First one is expository.
I want everybody to write this down. Everybody put this on your notes.
That's an
Okay?
Expository. All right, what do you think? You can go ahead and make 3, if you want, go ahead and make 3 subjects bullet points was purpose. Characteristics. What else? And example.
Just everybody go ahead and write all this stuff down. No if you want, because I
Yeah.
don't want you to write.
So
okay?
look, here's also an easy way to take notes. When you're in college, you'll probably be taking notes on a laptop. I've already told you this is going to be the outline or kind of the style for every type of writing. So what you can do is take that, highlight it, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And all you got to do is erase expository each time we get to a new one. And then you got a place to type your notes right already. Does that make sense? I'll just do this one. All right, so does anybody know yet what expository writing is? What does that mean? What is the purpose of expository writing? Do I want to take a guess? What do you think the word expository means? Oh yeah, what do you think? What's the root word there?
The root word.
Is that like the same as exposition?
Like exposition, yeah? What's the root word of exposition, expository, expositional?
Expose.
Expose. What do you think you're exposing in expository writing? Facts. The purpose is to expose facts. Write that down there. So what do you think some characteristics of expository writing are? I'll give you these first ones, just kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. So some characteristics of expository writing is written in logical order. So it's logical, and it does not contain opinion. All right, those are two characteristics that stand out. It's logical, and it does not contain opinion. All right, Jalil, what are some examples of expository writing? What are some where do you see expository writing every day? Every day. Huh? Okay, like where at school? All right, somebody help me out. Yeah. A newspaper, right? So if you're reading something that's exposing facts, it'd be journalism, right? Good journalism. Something else? You read it every day at school. Every single day you read them. Yeah, announcements are expository. Just revealing fact. Yep. Textbooks. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That's expository. Anything else you can think of? What about when you get like a box of, what if you get a Hungry Man dinner? There's expository writing on a Hungry Man dinner. What is it? Instructions. There's no opinion. There's no, those are all logical order. It's just exposing fact, right? So that's the first type of writing, is expository. The second type of writing is descriptive. Yeah, James. Yeah, but that's not really kind of writing, though. But that's a good use of the word. It is a good use of the word. Well, expository writing, by definition, is writing.
Okay.
But expository, just by the word itself, yeah, you could say the clock exposes time, I guess. All right, so the second one is what? What did I say?
Descriptive.
Descriptive. What is the purpose of descriptive writing? Good job, Rachel. You describe. What? Okay. What are characteristics of descriptive writing? Yes, Rachel.
To describe what I was, it's, to show.
Yeah, you're trying to show, that's the purpose of it. What are some characteristics? If you were to describe descriptive writing to someone, how would you describe it? Yes, okay, pretend you got the rule, you can't define the word by itself. Like the dictionary, if you were to look up descriptive in the dictionary, it wouldn't say to describe. All right, it contains details. All right, contains details. It's more, I'd say it's more expressive probably than expository writing, right? Evokes a little bit more of an imagination than expository writing. Any other characteristics you can think of for descriptive writing? Be descriptive. Contains detail. It's, what did I say? Expressive. Think of anything else? Okay, I didn't have anything else for you either. I was just going to say if you had. So, what are some examples of descriptive writing? What'd you say? Visual stories. Someone else raise your hand and tell me another example of descriptive writing. There's one that you see every single day, or you hear every single day. Think about like a script. A play, okay, so a play, that wasn't the direction I was going, but yes, a play contains descriptive writing of the scenes and what's happening in the scenes and what the actors are supposed to do. So yeah, that contains descriptive writing. What pops up every time you open YouTube? Ads. Advertising is super full of descriptive writing. Right, so a descriptive writing also, you could say a characteristic of it, contains adjectives. Right? Yes. Not if it's fiction. So like, okay, say you're writing a fiction novel about Lord of the Rings, like fan fiction. You could have to describe Middle Earth and what's happening, even though it's not necessarily true. But as long as the reader can visualize something, you're being descriptive, right? Or visualize it, or imagine hearing it, or imagine smelling it, or imagine tasting it. You know what I'm saying? Just being descriptive. So we got storytelling, advertising. What else? I got two other things written down here, just examples. Huh? I can hear you. It sounds like you're saying lays. Oh, plays. Yes, stories. Plays. I also have journaling. If you describe your day, right? Or poetry, right? Poetry is descriptive sometimes. Sometimes it's creatively descriptive, right? It's not just the grass is green, right? That's not very poetic, but you can still describe something without being so boring as the grass is green. All right. Third type of writing is persuasive. What is the purpose of persuasive writing? Yeah, persuasive writing's purpose is to persuade. These things are not that hard a concept. All right, so you're trying to, the purpose is to persuade someone to your point of view, right? What are some characteristics of persuasive writing? It can be argumentative, yeah. They don't always have to be. Like, think about advertising. Advertising is persuading you to buy something, but it doesn't necessarily argue anything with you. It contains facts, hopefully. Good persuasion contains facts. People can be persuaded without facts. Yeah, so it doesn't just contain facts, it contains the writer's interpretation of facts. or their opinion or their emotion, right? So persuasive writing should definitely contain facts if it's done well, but it also will contain opinion. So what are some examples of persuasive writing? Let me hear from this side of the room again. What are some examples of persuasive writing? A debate, yeah. Get to write your debate points, yeah.
Like, yeah, advertisements for like television and stuff.
Yeah, advertisements, definitely persuasive. What about the back? I was gonna say advertisements. Editorials. Someone tell me what an editorial is. What's an editorial? It's like someone's take on a situation. So like editorial journalism, like if you listen to like, I don't know, like a sports podcast, that's kind of an editorial. They're trying to convince you that someone's good or someone's bad or whatever. Yeah. Articles about what? Yep, political articles. A lot of times are editorials, like political editorials in the newspaper or the New York Times or whatever. There's all kinds of, this is how things are, this is how I think things should be, right? So that's persuasive. What's another example of persuasive? Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, like writing arguments, trying to persuade a jury one way or the other. Yeah. What is it? Oh, for sure. Essays can be persuasive. Yeah, can be. They might not have the best method of persuasion all the time, but they can try. Yep. I think a filibuster, like, you're talking about like in the House, like, I think that's just literally to fill time. Like they're literally will just read anything. Yes. Recruiters, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. There's one more, yeah, that all right, yeah, so like political advertising, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so most kinds of advertising are going to have persuasive writing in them. The other one that I kind of thought was reviews. Like everybody been on Yelp or Foursquare or anything like that? TripAdvisor. Yeah, reviews most of the time are telling you, I hate this place. They took forever to get me my food. I had to wait for 20 minutes and then it was cold. Don't go here. They're trying to persuade you not to give the people their business, right? Because they had a bad time and they don't want them to succeed. So they're trying to persuade you. All right, next type of writing. Last one. We've got, what was the first one? And what's the purpose? What's the second one? What's the purpose of descriptive writing? To describe things. And persuasive, we just did. So the fourth one is narrative. All right, what is the purpose of narrative writing? To tell a story. That's it. And you can kind of see how you'll kind of start to see how these overlap, right? So what are some characteristics of narrative writing? Yeah, they always use description. Always. It's impossible to tell a story without describing something. Yep. Well, the writer generally has to pick one of those things, yes, but like, yeah, it can be all kinds of different things. I don't quite understand your question. Yeah, like I went to the store. Like you're telling a story about yourself. Third person, you're telling a story about somebody else. Second person, you're telling a story about us. All right. Did y'all know that's what second person was? That's why you can't have a second person video game. Like when you're hanging out with your friends and you're like trying to remember something and you're like, you did this and you did that and then he went like, then you went over here, then you went over here. That's second person. We, us. I did this, you did that, we did this, we went here. It's like you're including other people in your own story with yourself. So it's like first person is just about from you. Third person is about someone else. Second person is really hard to write. It's very weird. But yes, narrative. Sorry, I got distracted, chased a rabbit there. Yeah, so always use description. What else does it often use? Sometimes it's just saying what happened. Sometimes they're being creative about it. Yep. What do you call that whenever this person says something and then that person says something? Dialogue. When's the last time you saw a narrative without any dialogue? Yeah. It's the purpose. So a narrative might like, so a movie would be a narrative most of the time, right? So, but within the movie, you have description, right? So like these can overlap. It's not like it's always this or always this. It's just you kind of mix these together to make a whole thing. Does that make sense? So there might be some times where you're writing a narrative, but the actual purpose of you telling the story is to persuade someone of something. Does that make sense? Right. So what are some examples, I've mentioned a few, of narrative type writing? Storytelling. What are examples of storytelling? Movies. What about writing? I mean, movies are writing, but. Okay, documentaries. What do you call that when it's in a book? And it's about a person. Biographies. What else? What's a genre of book that most people like to read? Fiction and nonfiction. Nonfiction can be narrative too. Or you can have nonfiction books. Like I read a book about, as nonfiction, it's about by Malcolm Gladwell, about talking to people that you don't know. And he used narrative to expose facts about the art of conversation, right? So the book was expository. Within the book, he had stories and narratives of individual people like CIA agents and stuff that's happening during the Cold War. And he used description to tell those stories, right? And there was hints of political persuasion all throughout the book because it's Malcolm Gladwell. So in that one book, he literally did all the 4 different types of writing. Because the purpose of the book was to explain how to talk to someone, how to approach someone that you don't know. And he went all kinds of directions to teach that. All right. So which of these types of writings do you think you enjoy the most? Like if you have to mainly do one thing in an assignment, what do you think you like to do the most? All right, somebody raise your hand. Yeah. Why? Okay. It's easier just for you to just describe something. Yeah. What about you, Brennan? Why?
A lot of the time, colleges look for and what they think, and it's easier to just like defend what you're saying than to try to research and describe a single thing. It's easier to just like research it and then be able to have that to defend your argument.
So you like finding evidence and like bringing in facts to persuade someone of your side of something? Sure. Yep. How do you like narrative? Somebody else, yeah. Descriptive? Oh. Oh, okay, I got you. So all of them except descriptive. Why do you not like descriptive?
I find it difficult to describe something, especially in so much detail that you end up spacing out.
Mhm.
Possibly describing something way off topic.
Okay. All right, somebody else give me an example of the one that you don't like. Yeah. Why don't you like expository? Okay. Why don't you like it? Yeah, like if someone were to ask you to persuade them whether or not to use Adobe Premiere Pro. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. A lot of times, do what?
I was saying she was maybe less creative, opportunity for creative, you being creative.
Yeah. Yeah, and creativity is different for some people. Like me personally, my two favorite kinds of writing are expository and persuasive. And I find it really easy to be creative in those ways more than I do narrative or description. Like, I have never once sat down to write a fictional story. Not one time in my whole life have I done that for fun. But all the time for fun, I'll sit down and write, what do I think about addiction? I literally wrote an essay one time in response to a Facebook post. I wrote an essay and then copy and pasted it into the comments. And the thing was, is addiction a disease or a choice? So I wrote a whole essay about it. Yeah. You don't like narrative. Why not? Yeah, it requires a lot of effort and energy to put in to make a really good story. Yeah. I do I'm interested by, I'll get you in a second. I'm interested by some people's process of creating like Middle Earth. Like when Tolkien created Middle Earth, I mean, that took months. He wrote a language. He wrote the Elven language. He wrote like The Hobbit was supposed to be a backstory to what he was actually going to write about. So he did like all this. It's supposed to be like a historical document for this made up world. He's called world creation, and he just went in all the way. What? Yeah, and same thing with Stan Lee, the Marvel Universe, and it's pretty crazy. Yes, Brennan.
What was your opinion on the essay?
On is it a disease or a choice? I don't remember. I think I said it's neither. I think I referenced the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, DSM-5, which is like where you get the diagnosis for like mental disorders, and I think it is a mental disorder, not a disease or a choice, because there's some people who are born addicted, like what you call like crack babies and stuff. They're born with an addiction, and that they had never made even a choice at all. And then there's some people who, by definition, a disease is something that is pathologically based, which means it is, I can't remember the exact terminology and definition, but by definition, addiction is not a disease because it's self-induced. It's an external substance that without direct action would not be introduced into the human body. So it's not a disease because it wouldn't pathologically happen. It's an external chemical, or I forgot what I said. I can send it to you. It's only about 2 pages. All right. 7 types of essays. We're going to get into 7 types of essays. So make you another page, that control, enter, make you a new page. And we're going to use the same format. So foundation, characteristics, but the third sub-bullet point is going to be type, which I mean like which type of writing. Expository, descriptive, persuasive, or narrative. We'll pick one, or two or three. All right. First type of essay is a personal essay. And I'm sorry if you already copy and pasted. I'm looking at my notes. And the first sub-bullet point is not purpose, it's foundation. So it's foundation, characteristic, and type. How much time do you do this? Yeah. In the fridge. Oh. Okay. They're in the freezer. Because because I just put them in there. Okay, I put them in there when we got here because they were sitting in the thing. The door was open and they were sitting next to the light, and so they kind of yeah, a little bit.
Oh, God.
But I put them in the freezer. They should be good now, but they might need to be taken out. All right, personal essay. What is the foundation? We're going to breeze through these real fast. What's the foundation of a personal essay? Where does it come from?
Your person.
Personal experience, something
Yeah, you put that up.
something that you care about personally. Could be a story, could be a topic, could be an issue, could literally be anything, but it's something that you care about personally. What are some characteristics of personal essays? What? Sometimes your opinion, yeah. What did you say, Brendan? Okay, yeah. Rachel, you raising your hand? No, not quite. So a lot of times personal essays, you might reach a conclusion with them of your opinion of whatever happened or like a lesson that you learned or something. You might come to some conclusion, but often it is, I'll write this down, introspective. Somebody tell me what that means. Yeah, so a lot of times personal essays, you're reflecting on yourself or your life or something that is close to you. And what type of writing is a personal essay? Narrative? Expository? It really depends on the essay that you're writing and the theme of the essay. It can literally be any of them. All right, political essay is the second type of essay. All right, what is the foundation of political essays? This is not hard. Politics. Foundation of political essays is politics, and it presents problems and offers solutions. Somebody give me an example of a political essay. I know you've heard about them in school. There's one that was really popular at the beginning of America. Yeah. Federalist Papers? What? It was a letter. It wasn't really an essay, but yeah, it was political. Yeah. Anybody ever heard of Thomas Hobbes? What about the essay Common Sense? Remember Common Sense? It's a political essay. Political writing. Discusses problems and offers solutions. The characteristic of political essays is it always discusses society or a group. And again, problems and solutions. What type of writing is a political essay? Can be, yeah, for sure. What's the other type it could be?
Writing aside topics.
Maybe in like a less artistic way. Because sometimes you definitely would have to use descriptive language if you're like telling us about something that happened in society, right? You'd have to describe that thing. Yeah. Yes, it's mainly expository and persuasive, because what you're trying to do is expose facts and then persuade people to one side or the other, right? So it's mainly expository and persuasive. All right. Anytime, I'll say this too, just as an example, back on expository types of writing. Anytime that you use evidence or facts to support what you're saying, you're expositing, at least a little bit. You might be putting your opinions on that, but there somewhere in there, in order for you to have an opinion about facts, to have your take on a certain set of facts, there has to be facts revealed. There has to be expository writing already done. So expository isn't just like sitting down and like the most common place that you hear expository is preaching, because somebody, like if you're Christian or if you're Catholic or whatever, then you take the Bible and just explain what it says. That's expository, and that's really the most like popular kind of that. That's like the most common example you would see of expository. Let's see, political. All right, next one, compare and contrast. You said you wrote one of those the other day. All right, what's the foundation of compare and contrast? I'm going to have to go faster. Somebody real quick. You're comparing and contrasting. Multiple subjects, right? You have to have multiple subjects that you're looking at. All right. And what type of writing is compare and contrast? All right, think about whenever you're comparing two things, what do you have to do to those two things? You have to expose facts about those two things, so that that's what you're comparing, right? Is the facts about those two things. So the first type of writing that is expository, and the second type is what? When you compare and contrast, it's mainly expository, but what else is it? Can be persuasive. Normally when you're doing compare and contrast, you might be trying to decide between something, doing a pros and cons list or whatever, right? Yeah, you can compare and contrast like two stories.
Will we compare a lot before and after a major event?
Okay, so like life before and after COVID or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be persuasive. It can just be expository, just to get it out there. All right, college application essay is the fourth kind of essay. What is the foundation of a college application essay? It's college application. You're trying to put your best foot forward with the university or college that you're wanting to go to, right? Or scholarship managing people. So foundation is to put your best foot forward, right, to an entity like a college or scholarship thing. And what are some characteristics of a college application essay? I'll read you these. Remember the two prompts I read at the beginning? It was, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. Please share your story if this sounds like you. Second one, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. Third one, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. Fourth one, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. Fifth one, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself and others. What's the theme? Personal experience. Most of the time, college applications are trying to get you to talk about yourself. right? So that's characteristic, is you're usually prompted to talk about yourself. Why do you think that is? Because you're the one applying. I want to know everything they can about you or learn more about you, right? So what type of writing is a college application essay? Descriptive. What you say, expository? Can also be that. Yep. Persuasive, because you're what are you trying to do? Trying to persuade them to accept you, right? Into the college or grant you the scholarship. Yeah, a lot of it can be narrative because they're asking about your life. Tell about a time that this, or tell about an experience with this. So it could be narrative, persuasive, and descriptive. And sometimes expository if you've got like specific facts that you need out. Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah, most of the time, like I said, these overlap. So a personal essay and a college application essay have a lot in common, right? And it could be a mixture of all of them, right? You could be comparing and contrasting, like he said, your life before this or your life before and after that. So yeah, I mean, these are just categories for you to think about so that when you encounter a prompt, you already have an idea of, okay, what direction can I take this, right? That's all this is doing, right? We're not going to say, hey, write a political essay. Hey, write a college application essay. When you approach a prompt, now you just have categories to think in, right? All right, we're almost done. Fifth one, analytical. What is the foundation of an analytical essay? Analyze. You're analyzing a situation. You're analyzing a subject. You're analyzing a item, right? So any time you're doing an analytical essay, you're literally just trying to pick something apart. What are some characteristics of an analytical essay? Are you trying to convince somebody of anything in an analytical essay? No. What are you trying to do? Yeah, you're just trying to just look at it and pick it apart. What are the details about it, right? Generally, you're trying to, when you go back, you can go back and put this in foundation of analytical essays. You're trying to analyze the subject and reach conclusions, right? When you analyze something, most of the time that's going to lead you to a conclusion. About what, I can't say. Like say you're analyzing music, like a rap beat or something, and you break it down by bar and by measure, and you count it out, you analyze it, you might reach a conclusion that says, oh, I would like it better if I did this, or I would like it better if I did this, or I like it the way that it is because of this, right? You're analyzing it and you're reaching a conclusion. And what type of writing is analytical writing? It's mostly one type. Expository. Because when you analyze something, you're trying to expose as many facts about that thing as you can, right? You're analyzing it. All right, last one. Oh, wait, no, never mind, just kidding. Sixth one, argumentative essay. What is the foundation of an argumentative essay? An argument. Pretty simple. So you're arguing for or against something, whether it's a position that you hold on a political issue or if it's a belief that you have about something. When you're doing an argumentative essay, you're either for it or against it, right? Characteristics. What do you think is found most or should be found most in argumentative essays? Yes, opinion, but based on what? Okay, yeah, facts. And then what do you do with those facts? Yeah, you make inferences. You make logical conclusions and logical steps, right? So it's not based on emotional appeal, like I think all dogs should wear collars because one time my dog wasn't wearing a collar and he got hit by a car. That's really sad, but it's not a very good argument. So it's not based on emotional appeal. It's based on logic and reasoning. All right? And what kind of writing is argumentative? Mostly. Go back and look at your 4 kinds of writing. Persuasive. If you're arguing about something, you're trying to persuade them that you're right. All right, and the last one, and this is the best one. Humorous. What is the purpose or foundation of humorous essays? Don't overthink it. To make you laugh. To be funny. Yeah, the purpose or foundation is to entertain the reader and make them laugh. So what are the characteristics of a humorous essay? There are 2 that we can definitely say are true, and the rest are just kind of guesses. Yes, 1, it's humorous. What's the second one? As long as it's humorous, and as long as it's an essay, it's a humorous essay.
Funny essay.
So you could write a humorous political essay, like if you wanted to write satire, or you could write a humorous personal essay if you were telling about an embarrassing story. As long as it's funny and as long as it's an essay, it's a humorous essay. And mostly any type of writing can be humorous. You just have to have a sense of humor. All right, so real quickly, I'm going to share with you my process of writing. All right? And the way that I go about it almost every single time, I wish I could get this. Come on. I want to be logged into this computer forever. The way that I go about writing it every single time, start with a prompt. All right. So the way that I write like steps like this on the computer is to write like this. I use that little guy like that. The greater than, yeah, the greater than sign, like an arrow. So start with a prompt. And then I pick my interest. And then I make an outline. And then after the outline, I write the thing. Using the outline, you literally pull the outline up on this screen, pull up your paper on this screen, or like half and half the thing, and you're just looking at it, keeping yourself on track. And if you get finished and you need more, your essay's not long enough or it's not got enough detail, then all you can do is go back to your outline and add bullet points where you want them. And go back, since you're on the computer most of the time when you're writing, you go back and just type in where you need to type in to make your writing match your outline and tie it all together and make it smooth, and then you're done. So then I write the thing, and then I review. So I go back and read it, I review it, and read it as if I'm reading it for the first time and see if I come across the way that I want to, then edit while I'm doing that. So I guess you could actually review / edit. And then if it's something that I'm publishing, or like I used to write stuff for articles and websites and did some copywriting and stuff, so it got published like publicly. If I'm doing something public, then I ask somebody else to read it. And then kind of start from like just the cycle of these two things back and forth, like review and edit, and review and edit, like that. You just kind of go in circles there until it gets polished up and you're ready to turn it in or publish it or whatever. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah, so if you can find a way to make things interesting for yourself, then writing becomes easier. And you can, since you've now learned all the ways of like different types of writing and the different types of essays, when you go to a prompt, you can kind of know what direction you would rather take it. Like, I'm probably not going to write a narrative essay about my life. I probably would rather write an argumentative essay about literally anything else. So now that you kind of know what you like and what your interests are in writing, you can make it easier. Another way to, I'll share this real quick. You've been outlining with bullet points all day. And I will just say that's not the only way to do it. I have this app on my computer and on my phone. It's called MindNode, and it's brain mapping or mind mapping. It's this right here. MindNode. All right. And really all it is, has anybody ever seen mind mapping or brainstorming? It's got a lot of different names. You know what I'm talking about? Like a web, right? And for me, it helps me to connect things logically. So like, I'll pull one up here. Don't exactly know. I wish I could just pull up the computer. I can't. All right, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I'm gonna turn it around. Just walking around, I guess. So that is like a mind map on MindNode where it connects things. All you gotta do is type. It's easier than doing it on paper for me because it organizes it for you and you can click and drag things around. But that's what it ends up looking like, is like this giant web. Oh my gosh, this giant web of like ideas and thoughts. And then when you go back to write, you just take each one of these little colored branches, like yellow would be a section or a paragraph, depending on how long you're writing. So like my 30-something page essay, the mind map, I don't know where it is, but the mind map for that was huge. It was massive. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And you can do it on paper, but I find it easier to do digitally because a lot of the tools that do that organize it for you. And sometimes it's easier for me to be visual with it instead of just have a list on a piece of paper. But whatever works for you. So anybody have any questions, or do you have anything that stood out to you that maybe you picked up on during this? Yeah, bullet points literally write your essay for you. You just have to turn them into sentences. Anybody else pick up on anything while we was doing this? Okay. Yeah. Jim? It depends on what it is.
You have like a website that you go to?
Yes, there's a little limerick that you can remember if you ever want to research anything. It is go to www.google.com. If you just remember that, then you'll know how to research that. No, that's a good question. There are different tools. There's Google Library, which is like peer-reviewed articles and stuff like that. Or yeah, that's what it might be called, Google Scholar, something like that. There's peer-reviewed things that are more, when you're talking about like science and things like that, peer-reviewed articles and stuff are way more like weighty. They carry a lot more weight because there's all kinds of, we won't get into this, this is different, but there's like logical fallacies that people make all the time when they're writing something or trying to persuade you of something, where it's not people, it looks logical on the outside, but it's really not logical, or it might be based on something that's not even facts. So getting your research and getting a accurate set of information that is actually factual is important. So that's very important. So it's like you can't just make up statistics, right? You have to actually go, like, I like to get like statistics for my presentations on Haiti and stuff I get from like NATO and like the government and stuff like that. But
And when you go to college, your library at your college will have access for you to be able to pull scholarly articles that have been written based on whatever your research is or whatever it is that you're doing for your class. So when I was in college and when I was doing my master's, each of the schools that I went to, the library, there's a EBSCO host, and there's some other different search engines or data banks, I guess, there that you can research, but you can go in and plug in whatever it is that your assignment is in your class, whatever you need, like a scholarly article on, and it'll pull up tons, and you have access to a lot of things there in college. So
for school, like for school assignments and stuff, most of the time, just your textbook is mostly the thing they're going to have to be researched.
But in some cases, though, you are going to have to write research papers. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a list of maybe 10 sources or something like that. Now, I know it is unheard of, but the libraries actually do have books in them that you can use. Okay. That is, like Devin saying, your textbook, you can go find books. Back in the day, before we really had access to online journals like that, we went and pulled books. That's all we did. We'd have 10 books or something. But having that search engine or through your library is very handy too. But yeah, your textbook, I mean, and you guys, I mean, how many people actually have a textbook for a class now? Do you still have those? Some, a few, okay. I know that a lot of high school classes are going away from that in addition to college classes, so don't always have a textbook, but yeah, if you have one, great resource.
All right. Do I need to give them an assignment to complete? I have one.
We were hoping to do that, but I don't know if we'll have time for that today.
Yeah.
Now, the folks who are you still recording?
Yeah.
They do need to do an assignment because they're not here.
I'm going to talk to the people who are watching on Teams real quick. If you're watching this on Teams, your assignment is to create an outline for an essay that is personal and something that you can pull back on whenever you need, like a college application essay.
Yeah, and they just need to submit it.
Yeah, submit that, and yeah, email that to me, Brittany, or Stephanie, and you'll get credit for it. Yep. I'll say this about research papers. You're asking about research papers. That's different than an essay. And there's like different formats that you have to use for research papers, which part of going when you go to college and like start to write research papers, if that's a field that you get into where you have to do that, you will get like a manual for that particular type of like Chicago style or whatever, Turabian format or whatever. And then you'll learn how to do that format in college. And then that's where you get like, this is where you put your bibliography and your references and all the research that you did has a place to go in there.
And it's going to be different based on what you study. If you're going into the sciences, you're going to be writing APA most of the time. And it depends on if you're going to be more arts and humanities, you're still going to be writing an MLA style, that kind of thing, which you're doing a lot of in high school. Anybody in here writing APA already in high school?
The new APA format for biomed.
For biomed, yeah.
Resources.
So I was a psychology major. Everything I wrote had to be written in APA format. Everything. You write an APA. That was very different for me, right? Because when I was in high school, I never wrote like that. I was always MLA style. So I had to, and fortunately, our computers, Microsoft is very handy, and when you pull up Word, like you can change it into APA. But your citations, all those things Devin's talking about, Those are very specific to your writing, to the writing format that you're required to use in college. And, you know, you guys just need to understand and accept the fact that in college, you're gonna write tons of papers. You're gonna write tons and tons and tons of papers. I mean, it depends on what you go into. Of course, if you're going into programs that are more like hard tech and you're really just interested in like electricity and all those kinds of things or whatever, you're not gonna write as much. But, you know, especially if you're looking at a 4-year program, you're gonna write some papers, okay? You're just gonna have to. I've written a bazillion papers, my whole master's program, everything, just papers every single week, papers upon papers upon papers. So it's really important skill to learn how to write and write well now. So what Devin has given you today is very good information and can help you a ton when you are formulating and writing those essays. So make sure that you use that. Also, you have resources available to you, i.e. Devin will read your papers all day.
I was gonna say that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you send me, the reason I use Google Docs is because it's really, really easy to get other people to read your stuff. And you can literally, like, have you ever been on a Google Doc with somebody else? Like, you can see what the other person is doing. Anytime I edit somebody's paper, there is an editorial mode on Google Docs where I can go in and highlight and delete and type suggestions on the paper, and it doesn't actually do them. It just shows them to you, what I suggest. It's like suggestion mode, right? So if you ever want me to read your paper, just send it to me in Google Docs and we can get on the phone and look at it at the same time and talk through it while you can actually see what we're doing.
And same for
Super
Brittany and myself. We're happy to read your essays as well. And this doesn't have to be like, you know, we've been getting a lot of essays to review for college, right? Like Common App essays and scholarships and those kinds of things. You don't have to wait until then. You can go ahead and send us your stuff for class. I mean, that's not a problem. Devin loves this, okay? Like a lot. And I like it, not quite as much as he loves it, but I do like it. And Brittany and Devin and I, all three, write very differently, but we all write pretty well. So you can send us what you got, and we'll try our best to make sure that you're looking sharp before you submit your assignments. But if you do decide that you want to send us something, and it's due at 10 o'clock a.m., you can't send it to us at 9:30, okay? So you gotta make sure that you give plenty enough time for review if you want to send something in. But send it to us. We're here and happy to read them and edit and help you with it as much as we can. So.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, we're gonna take a few minute break, and we got, what do y'all say, Devin, for that? Thank you very much.
Thank you.